Okay, it being just a little past 6 p.m., we'll go ahead and call the Winnebago County Board of Supervisors to order for May 4th, 2021. The county clerk has confirmed the roll, and we do have a quorum this evening. So we will move on to the next item, which is the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the invocation by Supervisor Powers. If you could please all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America
and to the
republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now the invocation by Supervisor Powers.
Creator of all things, give us a zeal for justice, forbearance, and liberty as we serve the people of Winnebago County. Today, we honor all teachers on National Teacher Appreciation Day. We thank you and we look ahead to Thursday, which begins Nurses Week here in this country and around the world. And on Sunday, we honor all women who are mothers or who have served others in a mothering role. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Supervisor Powers. Next, we'll move on to the next item, and that's a motion to adopt this evening's agenda. For that, I'll call on Supervisor Albrecht.
Move to adopt this evening's agenda.
Second.
A motion and a second to adopt this evening's agenda. Any discussion or changes? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. That motion carries. Moving on down to the next item, and that's a time during each meeting in which we give an opportunity for the public to speak on any item on the agenda or any item under county jurisdiction. If there is anyone from the public who wishes to speak, please raise your Zoom hand and I'll go ahead and call on you in succession. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to speak this evening? Is there anyone who wishes to speak this evening? I'll ask one last time. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to speak? And just in case there's anyone from the public who's unable to raise their Zoom hand but still wishes to speak, go ahead, anyone from the public, and open up your mic and state your name and address for the record, please. Is there anyone from the public? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close that portion of the agenda and we'll move on to reports from committees, commissions, and boards. Any reports from any committees, commissions, and boards from any county board supervisor? If so, just go ahead and raise your Zoom hand and I'll call on you in succession. And for any county board supervisor who is unable to raise their Zoom hand, if they do have a report, go ahead and open up your mic at this time and provide the report. Seeing none, we'll close that portion of the agenda. We'll move on to County Board Chairman's report. So just a few things. First, Supervisor Buck and Supervisor Lenz asked to be excused this evening. And then just as a reminder, our next meeting is on Tuesday, May 18th. And we continue to plan for that being a hybrid, so to speak, meeting. That would be Zoom like we're doing now, as well as in person in the county board chambers. So the county clerk has been working to reach out to the various county board supervisors to determine which would be coming on site and which would be continuing via Zoom. At this point, it is pretty much 50-50. I will tell you that. So now there are still some county board supervisors who have not responded yet, so we'll continue to work to reach out to them in advance of that meeting. But at this point, we do intend to continue in that fashion. We do know that there are some challenges with that hybrid model. I will tell you that. We've talked with some media experts, and there will be some challenges in terms of the audio and miking between Zoom and the in-person. But we're certainly just going to do the best we can, and we will adjust from there. I want to warn the folks who would be on Zoom on May 18th that it may be the case that we may be able to hear them, but may not actually be able to see them. If that can be worked out, that we can, well then certainly we will do the best we can to do that. But I'm just letting you know that now from the technical folks who we've already been working with, that may be the case based on their experience with other times where they have worked with a similar sort of hybrid meeting. It's a learning process for all of us, as you know. We'll do the best we can and we'll adjust as we go along. We will provide you an update beforehand if anything changes from the plans as I've outlined so far. And then also, I wanted to say congratulations to Supervisor Fari. I was notified that he was selected and appointed for the WCA, Wisconsin Counties Association Resolutions Committee. And for those of you who may not be aware, the Resolutions Committee is the committee of jurisdiction for WCA that evaluates all resolutions from member counties that would be considered and then potentially voted on at the WCA conference at its business meeting in September. So it's essentially the committee of jurisdiction for all resolutions that would be considered for the WCA platform for the upcoming year. So congratulations, Supervisor Fari, on your selections for that. And wanted to make sure everyone knew that and also have an idea of what that entails.
Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Fari. And then the last thing I just wanted to say is a thank you to all county board members and frankly, all public servants, all our county staff. It is Public Service Recognition Week, actually, as well this week. Supervisor Powers mentioned a number of other recognitions this week. It's also Public Service Recognition Week from May 2nd through May 7th. So certainly a big thank you to all of you county board members, all of our department heads, and all of our staff for all they do, particularly in a very challenging year that we all have experienced over this past year. You truly are appreciated, and much thanks go to all of you for everything you have done and will continue to do on behalf of the public of the county. So truly, thank you and happy Public Services Recognition Week. And with that, that concludes my report. So it's a special orders meeting, as you all know. We have 3 different presentations this evening. So we'll start with the first one, and that's the Uwo Fox Cities Campus 2020 and Beyond presentation. And that's with Chancellor Andrew Levitt, Dr. Martin Rudd, the Assistant Chancellor for Access Campuses, and Joanne Reif, the Executive Director of Facilities Management. And for that, I'll turn it over to Chancellor Levitt. Chancellor Levitt.
Thank you, Chairman Ramos and supervisors. Good evening. It's always an honor to appear before the Board of Supervisors. It's been a couple of years since we were last here providing an update on then the recently announced merger of the Access campuses with UW Oshkosh to form one university with 3 campuses. We're here tonight to provide a briefing on where we stand in terms of the development of those campuses and what our plans are for that. So I'll be doing a little PowerPoint tonight. I think that could be brought up now if that's okay. And we can begin this. I think it's important to note that we are 3 campuses, 1 university, and this is our 150th year of existence as a university. It's the sesquicentennial. I know that many of you out there are UWO grads, or you're grads of the UWO Fox Cities or UWO Fond du Lac. So we're always immensely proud, and we have a whole slew of activities that are planned for the fall semester. Now that the COVID seems to be abating, we're going to be able to meet in person and really have a great time. Let's go to the next slide, please. So this is what we look like today. And as you can see, we came back with some new word marks for the institution that really emphasized the UWO and the place of the city, whether that be Fox Cities, Fond du Lac, or Oshkosh for that matter. And this was really in response to the citizens of each one of the localities wanting to make sure that their name was in the right lights, as it were. There was a prominent feature of the name. So I really think this was a fantastic solution. And it's been very, very popular on apparel and all the things that we do. Next slide, please. And of course, this is the picture of the UWO Fox Cities campus, which still remains the 2nd most populous access campus in the system behind Waukesha. And it really is a jewel in so many ways, just wonderful facilities that we have there. Of course, the Barlow Planetarium eliminated the need for us to add a planetarium or add back the planetarium at the Oshkosh campus because we knew we had such an excellent facility up in the Fox Cities. And of course, the Performing Arts Center is another one of those examples of something that's really remarkable. So we really are very, very fortunate to have the combination of campuses, the locales. I really do think that the Fox Cities campus is a big part of the future of higher education in Northeast Wisconsin. So with that, I will switch to the next slide, and Martin Rudd will take it for the next couple slides.
Thank you, Chancellor Levitt. Nice to see many friends here again tonight, and also congratulations to the new county executive as well. We haven't officially met yet, but looking forward to working with you as well. So for those of you who are familiar, or perhaps even a little less familiar with the brief history of the UWO Fox Cities Campus, prior to World War II, UW Extension operated a vocational educational space in downtown Menasha. In fact, its roots date back to 1933. And until the Second World War, that school location was used for small classes in a sort of semi-urban location. In 1959 and then moving into 1960, the campus, not quite as you saw it in the previous picture, but the campus was established on Midway Road in Menasha through what was then considered a unique agreement between the Board of Regents and our two partnering counties, Winnebago County and Outagamie County. And these former UW centers, often called extension offices, were put together by the Board of Regents through agreements that extended into the counties through an operating agreement. And to date, that operating agreement means that our two counties equally contribute and fund the annual maintenance of our campuses to the tune of about $150,000 per county per year. And they also contribute to the capital projects that have taken place and will take place on the UWO Fox Cities campus. The most recent one of those being the Communication Arts Center that opened in 2009. Next slide, please, Alex. So this is where we got to how we are today. In the fall of 2017, and I'll mention a little bit more about this later, then President Ray Cross announced the restructuring of the UW system. And Chancellor Levitt asked me to lead that work for UW Oshkosh, which I gladly did, all the way through our sort of official joining as 3 campuses, 1 university, and the incorporation of our new name in the summer of 2019. Of course, we enjoyed a 1 semester hiatus as we got into our stride as our new university before before the COVID pandemic hit, and we shifted virtually all of our learning to alternate modes, remote delivery, online learning. We are now on the backside of that. The slide says here, rebounding and looking ahead, and that's really what we're doing as we look ahead towards the fall of 2021 and the return of in-person classes on all 3 of our campuses. We'll talk a little bit more about that later on as well. Next slide, please. One of the, so there were 3 tenets that President Cross discussed in his vision for the UW system restructuring: access, affordability, and opportunity. And all 3 of those are proudly displayed on the UW Systems website about restructuring. And to this day, we hold those 3 very close here at UW Oshkosh as we look to provide students with access, affordability, and opportunity. And I'm just going to take a minute to describe some of those that we have created as part of this new university. So first of all, access. The former UW colleges, the so-called 2-year campuses, were known for their access and transfer mission. And access and transfer remain culturally nurtured in our new university. This was something symbiotic that we feel that the 2-year campuses brought to UW Oshkosh, and likewise have been embraced by UW Oshkosh. Another point of pride with our Access mission is that we have reformed, and in fact this will be launched in fall of 2021, our general education requirements to amplify the UW system outcomes. And what that means is that we took a nationally known university studies program at UW Oshkosh and have adapted it to meet our own needs on the Fox Cities and Fond du Lac campuses. And this will enable coursework for students that has embedded career exploration, community-based projects, and opportunities to connect with the resources of all three campuses while still remaining fully transferable to any of the UW institutions across the state of Wisconsin. Next slide, please, Alex. Affordability was a key part of President Cross's vision for UW system restructuring, and working with our legislative partners, we have kept historically low tuition on our Access campuses, a little less than $200 per credit. That tuition is lower than at the Oshkosh campus because we serve a different type of student population. So for associate degree seeking students, we're able to offer a lower tuition price point for up to the first 2 years of their education. And then if they choose to transition to the Oshkosh campus, then they'll start paying the baccalaureate tuition. That seems to be working very well. Another unique piece that we have dived deep into with UW Oshkosh has been the CAP partnership, our ability to offer collegiate credits in the high schools, and not just in the high schools, but offering the credits where the students are. So our resources through the Fox Cities and Fond du Lac campuses have been able to expand that network, including now to online as we launch for fall of 2021. Next slide, please, Alex. And finally, with opportunities. So what have we done in terms of opportunities? I mentioned the last bullet point here a little bit, the general education requirements, but we've also had other unique opportunities. We've grown and strengthened the partnership that we have with UW-Platteville, where students can complete an engineering degree on the Fox Cities campus without ever having to leave the campus. That's a partnership that we're doing between UW-Platteville and UW Oshkosh. All 4 years can be completed without ever having to go to the Platteville campus. And we're very excited to announce that in fall of 2021, we will launch a fully online Associate of Arts and Science degree, again, aimed at a new adult population to bring students distance learning opportunities so they can complete their degree in the place where they are, whether it's working, whether it's out looking for a job, or they're simply unable to come to a campus. Next slide, please. We have invested more than $900,000 in annual ongoing new investments as a result of this restructuring. And I want to just run through a few simple examples in ways in which we've built up the student success opportunities, the academic planning, and student-based activities on the Fox Cities campus. So just a few examples are we have expanded and recreated the tutoring that occurs at the Fox Cities and Fond du Lac campuses, again, coming under the umbrella of the central tutoring services that are provided through UWO. Each of our Access campuses has a Veterans Resource Center. We are determined to provide good, useful resources to veterans who choose to come to Fox and Fond du Lac to start their education. We've invested heavily in information technology, especially in services, device support, and security, a part of any growing organization. Most recently, last week, we announced that the campuses of UW Oshkosh are the inaugural members of the Wisconsin Collegiate Sports League. And so we have been proud to stand up athletics and sports clubs on our Access campuses. They've been on hiatus, of course, for this past year, but we're going to be coming back stronger in partnership with UW Stevens Point and UW Green Bay. And lastly, but not least, the academic planning continues. We are robustly developing programs that we will be able to offer as certificates and degree expansions, degree completion programs on both of our access campuses, and that's continuing in a formal way through some project work that we're doing at UW Oshkosh with Gray Associates. Next slide.
Martin, if you wouldn't mind, if I could jump in on this one a little bit. A couple of points I would like to make about our relationship with the former UW Fox Valley, now UW Fox Cities, and Fond du Lac for that matter. We have made certain that every dollar that had originally been associated with those campuses went back to those campuses, that there was no movement of money or of resources from the access campuses back to the UW Oshkosh campus. We felt very strongly about that. In fact, we actually ended up supplying quite a bit of resources from the main campus, or the Oshkosh campus, out into the access campuses to assure them a higher level of quality and outcomes for our students on those campuses. So I want you to know and understand that the way the money moved is that we were committed to having very successful access campuses from day one, and the money that was theirs originally went back to them and then some. So let me pass that back to you, Martin.
Thank you. Next slide, please, Alex. Just want to highlight a few of the important changes that we've made. In the top left here, this is a picture of Chancellor Levitt with our team from Los Angeles, from King's Education, with whom we partner to recruit international students from around the world for all three of our campuses. We are a unique partner with UW System in having signed an agreement with King's that helps us to recruit these international students who greatly enrich the experience that we have on our campuses. In fact, this current year, the chair of the student government president at the Fox Cities campus is one of our international students. In the top right, a great success in having single commencement ceremonies. We are seeing more students walk at the graduation ceremonies, the commencements at the Oshkosh campus, than we ever had attend at our Fox Cities or Fond du Lac campuses. It's remarkable. We're going to be having 68 who have chosen to attend at the Fox Cities campus for commencement on May the 15th when we hold it at Oshkosh. Bottom left, we have a dining contract that covers all three campuses. So we're seeing improvements in food quality service, and the same thing with bookstores. We're about to become a single university bookstore as of the fall of 2021. So some really terrific things that are occurring around the sort of infrastructure and services that we're able to offer as a university. Next slide, please. We have initiated several different marketing campaigns. This shows two recent Facebook posts that contain great information on applications now for fall for our two access campuses. And for those of you with eagle eyes in and around the Fox Cities, you will soon see, in fact, they are already up, some billboards. And those billboards are part of a campaign that we are running in the Fox Cities and in Fond du Lac, describing your hometown university. This one happens to be at the corner of Oneida and 441. So we're proud of the way in which we attract and retain our local students. Next slide, please. I'll talk just briefly, and Joanne Reif is here as well if you have questions later on, about the future facility needs at the Fox Cities campus. Our biggest future project is the Student Development Center that will be desirable for us to host our club activities, our meetings and networking, this career exploration that I mentioned earlier, where the resources of the highly respected Career and Professional Development Center at the Oshkosh campus are coming to our access campuses. We are seeing an uptick in the types of activities that our students are doing. We were seeing that before COVID. And of course, a place to house our great food service and our student governance headquarters. On the academic side, we currently run an executive MBA program out of a center in Appleton. And the plan is to bring that to a potential location on the Fox Cities Campus. That will most likely be a program that would run evenings and weekends. So what might we do with the building during the day? Well, we continue to see an increasing need in financial literacy, and we have several great partners, community partners, including the Credit Union and Guardian Life, who are ready to help us spread the message about financial literacy among our students. Next slide, please. Chancellor Levitt, I'll turn it back over to you for any concluding remarks before we open it up for questions.
I think that's fine. I think we this is the presentation we wanted to give tonight, and we're ready to answer any questions that you might have.
Supervisor Albrecht, thank you for the next presentation.
Thank you, Supervisor Albrecht. Is there any other supervisor, any questions or comments? I see Supervisor Warnke. Please go ahead, Supervisor Warnke.
Where does Outagamie fit into this picture?
That's a good question. I'll take this one. So they fit in a very similar way to Winnebago County. They invest the same amount of money. In fact, we are visiting with Outagamie County a little later on this month because they also have asked for an update. So we share 50-50 the cost of the annual maintenance of the facilities. I said it's about $150,000 per county per year. We split that right down the middle. And the same with capital projects as well. It's a great relationship. It's worked well since 1959. It continues to work well, and I enjoy working with the supervisors from both counties on this.
So they are committed to staying into this?
Yes, they are. I you know, if they were here, I think they would say exactly that. Yes. And in fact, in the same way that this is an open meeting, perhaps you would like to attend their open board meeting, which I think is on the 25th of May.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
Thank you, Supervisor Warnke. I see a couple other call-ins. First, I'll call on Supervisor Nussbaum, followed by Supervisor Shorsey. Please go ahead, Supervisor Nussbaum.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just wondering if Fond du Lac County is providing any funding.
So I'll take that question. So Fond du Lac County has their own campus. They support the UWO Fond du Lac campus, but unlike the shared costs of the Fox Cities Campus, they support that one on their own. A little further south in Washington County, there's the UW Milwaukee at Washington County. That is shared jointly between the county and the city of West Bend. So there's a lot of unique relationships with how these locally based campuses, which were established some in the 1930s, in the case of the Fond du Lac campus in 1968, are funded. But that's the responsibility of Fond du Lac County to fund their own campus there.
Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Nussbaum. Next, I'll call on Supervisor Shorsey, followed by Supervisor Bender. Please go ahead, Supervisor Shorsey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have two questions. One is if you would address the economic impact of that campus. I know that was a question I had months ago, and I think it would be good for people to hear that. And then this, my second question is, have you done any projections on the financial impact from an operating perspective? If we're paying $150,000, and if there's going to be an expansion, that would mean most likely more maintenance requirement from the counties who are sharing those costs. So have you looked at some of that? And then obviously you would be coming to us for capital contributions, I would expect as well. So if you could just address that. I understand that you probably don't have all the numbers worked out, but just from a philosophical point of view, how that might affect us.
Yes, I'll be happy to, and thank you for that. I might ask Joanne Rive to jump in a minute. So to the first part of your question about the economic impact study, that's a very timely question because the Board of Trustees and Supervisors Snyder, Brunn, and Binder sit on the Board of Trustees. just heard a discussion and a presentation by a UWO staff member, the interim director for the Center for Customized Research and Services, Jeff Saxey, who will run study. It seems like the most, am I muted? The host muted me.
You're good.
Oh, right, okay. Yes, so they heard about what an impact, an economic impact study would actually look at and what it would bring in. So we believe it's actually useful information to share, not just with the board here, but actually with the citizens who help fund the campus. To your second point about the capital expenses, we are in the early stages of doing a scoping and feasibility study for the Student Development Center that's actually being funded by both counties. And that's the type of study that we think makes good sense to help bring you information about things such as anticipated annual increases in building maintenance and of course, ultimately a capital project expense. Joanne, you're on here. Do you have anything to add to that?
I think you've got it all covered, Martin. Thank you.
All right. Did that answer your question? Okay.
Thank you, Supervisor Shorsey. Next speaker is Supervisor Bender. Please go ahead, Supervisor Bender.
I'd just like to make the comment that one of the big differences, the two-year university is roughly $2,500 less per year in tuition. And there's approximately a little over 1,000 students that attend there every year. That's a savings of roughly $2.5 million. And when you hear like with the student loans, the way they are today, I mean, that's big money these students can save by going to a two-year university. And we're providing that service for them. So I just want all the supervisors to realize that there is a large cost savings for the students to go there. They can get 2 years worth of undergrad credit and transfer to a four-year university and still save $5,000. So there's opportunity there that I'm happy to say that we're part of providing that for them and saving them money off that student loans that they'll have to pay back in the future. Thanks.
I would just also like to point out, Mr. Bender, that we enthusiastically support transfer. It breaks my heart to watch one of our fine students from the Fox Cities go to Madison or some other place, but that's what we're about. We're about the personal development of the student. And so we have many, of course, who come to the Oshkosh campus. In the near future, we want to have those completion programs right on the Fox Cities campus. So you never have to leave the area, Menasha or the Fox Cities. So we do very much honor that transfer mission really to the letter, because we think that's an important part of the accessibility.
Thank you, Supervisor Bender, for those comments. Seeing no other call-ins, we'll go ahead and conclude that presentation. I want to thank Chancellor Levitt. I also want to thank Dr. Rudd and also Executive Director Reif for being here, providing this information, and certainly for all you do in the community. So thanks again for being here this evening. Much appreciated.
Thank you all very much.
Okay.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Thank you again. Okay, we have two more presentations this evening. The second one is general updates and proposed staffing position changes in the County Executive's office. For that, I'll call on County Executive Damel. Please go ahead, Executive Damel.
All right, thank you. Martin, that was a great presentation. I am alumni of UW Fox Valley, what I called it back in the day. And it was a great campus. So a testimony to what that is. I wanted to talk to you a little bit. Last time we met was my first day on the job. My feet are a little more wet than they were last time we had this meeting. As far as the status, we do have some things that we're going to have to address coming up here pretty quick. I know you guys have talked about the Sawyer Creek watershed, but I just want to give you guys a heads up that that's going to be coming back to the table here soon. If we don't act on that, we're looking at increasing the insurance costs of 3,800 residents throughout the county. So we're definitely gonna have to get together and look at creative ways to solve that. But on to why I'm here and why I put myself on the agenda for tonight. I know it's usually odd for an executive to do that. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the county executive position. Things that I was elected to do. I was elected on a platform of communication and collaboration and growth and reform. And these are things that I really feel that we can do here in Winnebago County. I see it as my job to work with you to be able to help you accomplish your goals when your committees have things that need to put me to work to actually get out and get these things accomplished. I have to work on culture within our county. We need to create careers again instead of jobs. We are a training platform for a lot of other counties. We spend the resources to teach them the job, and then they go to other counties where they continue their careers, and that's not sustainable or a viable solution. So we have to get competitive with those other counties so we are maintaining the staff. Again, bringing it back to county careers and not just county jobs. I need to work on improving citizen trust again and resident pride in Winnebago County. We have a lot to be proud of here. The resources that we have are immense, and the people and the culture is really good. Our industry is strong, and clearly our education is up there. There's no reason that we shouldn't be the envy of the region with the resources that we have here in Winnebago County. It's also my job to drive growth in both business, industry, and community. And these are things that I think we can absolutely do. We can really grow our county in a way to where we should be, to levels that we should be, with the waterways and the parks and everything that we have, the land and the opportunities. And I want to engage community and business and us to be able to work on collaborative solutions on issues. We can really find some sustainable things to address some of the biggest problems that we have in our county. I want to take the moment to express that the Winnebago County has been the outlier. If you look at the list of the top 20 counties in Wisconsin, we are clearly the smallest staff. As a matter of fact, out of the 72 counties that we have, there are only 2 other counties that have an executive staff of just 2 people. That would be Manitowoc County and Portage County. We are immensely larger than them. I have a whole bunch of stuff that I'll be sending you guys so you can see some of the comparable counties that we have and where they're at. Rock County, for instance, population 162,000 people, have 5 full-time employees on top of their commissioner at a budget of $609,000. So what I'm asking for isn't something unique. I'm trying to fix the issue of what was unique, and that was our current executive office. In 1987, we had action planning and zoning organization study by Arthur Young. This was actually laying around the office while we were going through all the files. And back in 1987, we had recommended that the staff grow, that the office was not big enough to do the job. And that's really what I'm trying to get to. I have a mission that has to instill vision and values. And I think if we do that, we're really in a great position to do that. So it's not the blame of any executive before me. It's really just the fact that the office hasn't been built to do the work that it has to. It's been tied down with the day-to-day operations, and it hasn't had time to go after those inefficiencies and go after that growth and to make sure that we're doing our job in leading our department heads and making sure that they are working together as a team. We have some wonderful people working here in Winnebago County. We are really lucky at some of the staff that we have here. When I look at Department of Health and Human Services, or even Doug Gearin or Vicki Fitzgerald, we have some amazing leaders here. We just have to make sure that we are all heading the same direction and tapping into each other. So on those proposals, one of the members is the chief of staff, and that is Ethan Hollenberger, who's actually on this Zoom meeting tonight. He comes from Washington County. He has worked, this is the 3rd county executive that he would work for. And matter of fact, in the week that I've been here with Ethan, it's amazing how many times his phone rings on other counties asking for his advice. So I really think it's a good fit of somebody who's been able to go through the transition like Washington County did, where they went to the executive model, and they're able to build the mission and the vision and the values for those careers to make sure that they were competitive with other counties. So that's something that I'm looking for my chief of staff to do to help with my government affairs, both up and down, you know, to the citizen level to all the way up to the U.S. government, to help implement the mission, the vision, the values, and to help our department heads to collaborate, to make sure that we're putting out fires if they're fires, and we're pushing for optimal efficiency while we're doing our job. The other thing is the executive assistant, I think, is going to stay the same. John Fink is a wealth of knowledge. I sat down and I wanted to ask him what he knew about our county and county government. And this man has been sitting in this office for the past 24 years, and he has been paying attention. He knows a lot of the things that we tried, a lot of things that failed, a lot of reasons why they failed, department heads, and how that looked going back for the 24 years. So I really want to keep him in his position to make sure that I had that counsel in the government to kind of understand where we came from, while Ethan helps me figure out how we get to where we need to be. But on top of that, we need to understand that people communicate more ways than just phones and emails these days. There's all kinds of ways that people communicate. Matter of fact, 80% of the information that people 40 years old or younger, they get their news off of social media. So we have to make sure that we're there, that we're able to have communications both incoming and outgoing with our citizens. So I'm proposing a communications specialist so that we can have a better way of fighting some misinformation out there, so we can have a better way of communicating with people and letting them both talk to us and for us to communicate with them, and to make it so that all our department heads are able to have a place where their information can be shared. If you look at our website right now, it's not the best. It has some work that has to be done. We have a lot of department heads out there that have their own websites, and it doesn't look uniform. We have to look like we are on the same team. So really, that communication specialist is going to help us to be engaged in the citizens. And when you don't have that release valve, we end up with 200 people here wanting to talk at this meeting, and the public comments go on for 3 hours. And Shiloh, I really respected the fact that you always extended that to make sure people had an opportunity to be heard, because they need to be. But it also tells me, when we have citizens lining up like that for 3 hours, that we don't have enough vessels for them to communicate with us. So hopefully that will alleviate some of those things, to make sure that we're really trying to do some of the best things for the right reasons. So I am open up to questions. This is really, I wanted to get ahead of this so that your questions can be asked to me, so that I can make sure that I'm getting all the details that you need. And again, Ethan is here too if you have any questions of him. I'm sure he wouldn't mind answering that. And I'm really looking forward to getting to know each of you better and find out what your missions and visions and values are for Winnebago County, so that we can put this office to work for you.
Thank you, Executive Damo. We'll open it up for questions. Are there any county board supervisors with any questions?
Shiloh, this is Bill.
Please go ahead, Supervisor Wingren.
I'm sorry I don't have the raise my hand feature here.
Absolutely no problem. Please go ahead.
It's an honor to meet you, Mr. Damo. I haven't had the honor of meeting you in person. I look forward to that. I admire the fact that you're out here. And I assume, based on what I've read on your Facebook page, I can be very blunt with you.
Yes.
Okay, that's good. Now, don't shoot the messenger. But in talking to a lot of people, I wonder, who the heck is this new guy? I don't know. But I'm going to ask some questions. One is, when you were running for this office, were you aware of the what you were getting into? I said, like, you're coming in now, all of a sudden, oh my God, I need some help. I'm way over my head. Is that a fair? That's not bad. That's not bad. Is that a fair assessment?
Well, of course it's a fair assessment. Not one of us knew what we were doing day one on the job. You may have your own ideas of what it is, but you get there and then you learn, and it's always something that you didn't think it was going to be. Yep. So that would be my answer there. Yep.
The word fix, what does that mean? A lot of things on your Facebook, like, you're very critical of what happened before. Now, I'm not going to put a poster up in your office that says, because we've always done it that way. I hate that. But I think I'd be a little bit careful. And in demeaning what we've done in the last number of years. We've done some pretty darn good stuff. So that's just the thing. The final thing.
And if you don't mind, if I'd like to respond to that, I would like to offer a little bit of apologies for some of the criticism I did. I was very critical, especially on this office, for the lack of work that I felt it was doing, but it wasn't built for work. And that's one of the things, that's why this is number one here, to really get this office to the fact where it can do that. So I do apologize for that.
The final thing is, I don't know how to say this without just being blunt. And the need of a political operative. The county executive is a nonpartisan position. You said you ran for this office as a nonpartisan, even though one of the political parties and the local leader of the chamber endorsed you and had a vendetta against our then incumbent. Why would you go to some guy who is known, and even on your Facebook page, you call radical right? Why would you choose someone like that to set the tone here? We need to be nonpartisan. We need to face problems, issues as they come, based on facts, not push partisan agendas. Can you assure us that in spite of the reputation this gentleman has, that you won't be doing this?
Absolutely, 100%. Ethan has been involved in building houses, and that is what he's here to do. He is not here to push policy. He's here to help me to affect my policy. He knows how to get around it. And if you look at our state legislators in Winnebago County, we have a lot more Republicans than we do have one Democrat, right? So we need somebody who's going to be able to translate and speak that language, because I am a nonpartisan person, and I have always been a nonpartisan person. But we need a bipartisan effort to get the things that we need done. We need to be able to convince a lot of the Republicans that we have to use some of these conservative, tools that they have to address the liberal issues that we've had for a long time. We have to get serious on housing. We have to get serious on poverty. We have to get serious on ways for people to get out. We have to take both sides and put them together, and then we're actually going to be able to walk the walk, and we can do it efficiently, and we can do it without necessarily having to raise taxes. So my heart has always been in the right place. Where I want to be is for the people, and you can ask a lot of the supervisors, even our health director, who took a lot of heat before I got here, who is a great man, by the way, and we're lucky to have here in Winnebago County, to actually work with me. And they are, and it's been very receptive. Now, I did not say radical right. I said right winger. He was listed as a Tea Party guy, but it's about what he can get done, not what he believes. And Ethan will be here to ask those questions. He grew up in poverty in Winnebago. He came from a single mom home in Winnebago. He understands our county and understands what it's like to claw your way out and get there and make a name for yourself. So those are the tools, and that's the fight that I'm looking for to make it done. Now, whether he was far right or far left, way far left, and that was his resume, that's who I would have brought in to help me fix the thing. So absolutely, Bill, you have my word that this is going to be a nonpartisan thing, because it has no business at this level. It has no business at the city level. They haven't done a great job at the state or the government. So you can guarantee that the man driving the ship, which is myself, will absolutely be willing to work with all.
Okay, thank you. In conclusion, I admire your enthusiasm. You got to get excited about this stuff, and you sure are. That's great. I look forward to working with you. We'll look for ways we can work together, because on the bottom line, if you do well, the county does well. That's what we're all about. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for taking this challenge. Grab the ball and run with it.
Absolutely, Bill. Thank you so much. I have 4 daughters at home that challenged me to be this enthusiastic.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Supervisor Wingren. Thanks for your comments. Next, I'll call on Supervisor Bender, followed by Supervisor Norton. Please go ahead, Supervisor Bender.
I just got a couple of questions. First of all, when we get our next board packet, would it be possible for you to have the wage study for these positions that you're asking for, what the other counties are paying, who drew up the qualifications, the job description for that, a copy of that, so that we would know that what the qualifications are to hold those jobs? And then my other comment would be with the city, with the flooding problems. They continue to build on the frontage road. You see one building after another go there, and that creates more water coming down to the Sawyer Creek. But yet they want to take our farmers that basically that's a retirement, that farmland, and they want to turn that into like a watershed. I don't really think it's right to penalize somebody that farmed that land for maybe 50 or 100 years and now tell him he's going to have to use his land to store water when the city continues to build on the frontage road. They continue to build by Evergreen Manor. They continue to build by Oshkosh Truck. And then they want the poor farmer to basically suffer. If they want, they can buy that farm, the Kenny Neubauer farm. There's an 80-acre farm coming into right by the town of Algoma. They can put a huge retention pond right there, and that will take care of pretty much all their water problems. But don't make the farmer suffer because the city continuously wants to see the growth. I don't think that's fair to the people that make their living farming their land. Thanks.
All right, first of all, I want to address that, even though that's not really on the agenda. I couldn't agree with you more. It's not these farmers' fault. It's a rough deal all the way around. We didn't turn the light on this thing. The city did, but we do have to make it right. And just because I'm from Oshkosh doesn't mean I'm an Oshkosh loyalist. This is the county, and we need to do what's right for our citizens for the entire county. So I'm willing to go to bat, and I've already talked to land and water conservation as well as zoning, and I have a lot of balls moving in that direction already. And I agree with you. We can't put that on the farmers. It's crap, pardon my language, but we have to deal with it, and we have to deal with it now. But going back, absolutely, the wage study, I'll give that to you. That'll be in the packet. We worked with multiple other counties to see where they are. Actually, on the executive, the chief of staff is the lowest wage of that staff that was available. So that wasn't started mid-range or high range. It went to the exact lowest for all the comparables. So we will absolutely have that. With the job descriptions, we worked a lot with Mike and HR, the department head there, who really brought in all these. We looked at multiple different counties and probably over 20 different job descriptions to really see where this was going to fit, to make sure we weren't creating something new, that we were looking throughout the state of Wisconsin of what worked. So absolutely, that will all be on there. Ethan, you're on this call. I'm hoping you're taking notes too.
Thank you, Supervisor Bender. And just to all the supervisors, and Executive Damo kind of mentioned that I want to make sure we keep any questions or discussion to the item on the agenda. I gave them an opportunity for general updates because I absolutely wanted the public and the board to hear. But in terms of questions or debate, we want to keep it to more of the general staffing proposals, okay? Just so we don't thank you, Supervisor Bender. I'll next call on Supervisor Norton, followed by Supervisor Shorsey. Please go ahead, Supervisor Norton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, Mr.
Mike, you're muted.
You're muted, Mike.
Okay.
Supervisor Norton, you're muted.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you well.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you, County Executive Damo. I have for years, last 3 years, have pleaded with the county executive to have a communication specialist. I think one of the best hires that Doug Gearing did as health officer was when he hired a communication person for that department. And obviously, through this pandemic, we really needed someone like that. I think it's really needed. It's needed because people don't know much about Winnebago County government. You know, I would hope that we get this person in place, maybe because, you know, maybe not. In June, we are going to have a human services budget meeting. And I would like to have that room filled with people who would like to know what human services should be allocating our money to in this county, which has been lacking for many, many years. So I hope that this communication specialist can in the future help not human services, but other departments in the future get out the message of what we do. Because I tell you, people don't know what Winnebago, don't know what county government does. And, you know, maybe another thing we can work on, county executive is, you know, I tried 2 years ago to form a committee to get ideals to how to better educate, inform the public of what we do. Maybe you could help me in that effort because I think it's really needed. Because I don't think many people know what we do. I get that because when I go around election every couple of years, and people say, "What do you do as a county board member?" So I want to applaud you. I think a communication specialist is something this county has needed for years, at least general for the whole county. And I think we need to find a way to reach out to the general public, inform them what we do, so they know what the county government does. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Norton.
Thank you. Oh,
please
go ahead.
go ahead, Executive Damo.
All right. No, I really appreciate that. It is going to take time, though. I have to encourage you that this is something that we have to do and be committed to. Now, as my other job, I guess, if you would, my business, we do over $1.2 million in sales every year without advertising, but we do that through social media. Now, it takes time to build up that following. It's going to take a little bit of time, and it usually takes a year and a half to 2 years to really get that following so that people can get their information from you. And I think we're a little bit behind the ball. We definitely could have used it for COVID to really get that information out. But yes, I agree with you, Mr. Norton, that we have to make sure that we're getting citizens engaged.
Thank you, Supervisor Norton. And Supervisor Schneider, I do have you in the queue. So thank you. I do see your hand. I appreciate that. So next speaker is Supervisor Shorsey, followed by Supervisor Zelmer, and then it'll be Supervisor Schneider. So please go ahead, Supervisor Shorsey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Damo, one of the things I wanted to point out is that we have a culture on the board, and we've worked very hard over the last several years to have things come to us in an organized, systematic, logical business plan format. And I would like to encourage, and I hear your enthusiasm. I went on the Washington County website and checked that out, and support, at least my perception of some of the things you'd like to get done. And we've talked for years about lean process improvement and, just general improvement opportunities that the county has. But I was very concerned, we're getting a little bit of the cart before the horse. And in that, one, we did not have a written plan coming to us about your plans for, whatever it is, the first 100 days or the first 6 months, getting us up to a budget period where we could have discussions about changes that affect the budget. Basically, you do not have the authority to hire someone without our approval. And so please understand, my issue that I'm very concerned about, and we have held feet to the fire on the director level for several years now, and they have to come in with their ducks in order. And we did that with Mark Harris as well. So it's not something where you can just come in and say, well, this is what's going to happen, and oh, that sounds good. We need meat. And so I am going to encourage you, and I would encourage my fellow supervisors to hold off a bit till we can get some thoughtful written plans in place. We know how it's going to impact budgets, et cetera, et cetera. So, and I'll see you at Finance Committee meeting this week as well. So, but I do, we want us all to succeed together. And we don't need to be talking on Facebook about employees. In fact, we could get sued for that, from my understanding. I'm sure the HR people are like crazy about that. It is not okay to talk about private employee matters on Facebook. So I'd be happy. I'm a real process person. I've done business plans. I'd be happy to sit with you and help you with that. But let's slow down a bit and get things right as you're coming out of the chutes, because we'd like to see you succeed. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Shorsey.
Thank you for your comments. Shiloh, is it okay that I respond?
Please go ahead.
Or would you rather I not? Okay.
No, please go ahead.
I couldn't agree with you more. I could have written you a 100-page synopsis of what I was going to do in the first 100 pages or first 100 days, and it probably all would have been wrong. I had to get in here and see where it looks. I totally agree with you on organized and systematic and business format, and these are things that we have to do and get kind of organized and uniform throughout county, even with the department heads. How we ask for facilities to be replaced or maintained or built. We need uniform processes all across the board with all our department heads to make life easier for finance and everybody else. And these are things that I'd love to sit down with you and discuss. State statute does say that the county executive office is allowed 3 positions. So that is something that is absolutely a constitutional authority. I did check that out with corporate counsel. However, the 4th, the communications specialist, is not. I absolutely would not fire from the hip if I didn't talk to corporate counsel, if I didn't have other people that said that, yes, this is something that we could do. If I didn't have the blessing of Mike from HR, I never would have pulled the trigger on that. But I do know that time is wasting and we needed to go that. So I stepped as far as I possibly could have. Now, again, this is a special orders meeting, and I figured this would be the perfect time to start the discussion. I'm not asking everybody to vote on this tonight. I'm not asking anybody to make up their mind. I just want to get the gears rolling, make sure that we had the questions started.
Thank you, Executive Damo. And Supervisor Sorcy, just so you know, I've had a conversation with Executive Damo, and we've talked about kind of the approach to positions and the format that's been utilized in the past. So I know he's working with the staff on that. So thanks, Supervisor Sorcy. Next speaker is Supervisor Zellmer. Please go ahead, Supervisor Zellmer.
John, do you have a ballpark figure at all what wages and fringe benefits would be yearly for these 2 positions?
I do. I want to say the entire office right now, it would just about double our budget. But it would double our budget for 2 positions and the efficiency. So we'd be sitting, I want to say, I don't have it in front of me, but it was right around $420,000 annually for the position. And that's including the travel and the stay for the WCA and the things that we really need to be there involved with you. When you guys go to the WCA conference, both in the state and in the national and in DC, I should be there with you as a teammate on that. So Ethan, I don't know if you have a better response on that.
Now I do see there's Director Collard on here. I think he maybe had some information.
Perfect.
So I saw him. So I'm going to go ahead and allow Director Collard. Please go ahead. I think you had a response to that question.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do have the labor costs calculated regarding the 2 new positions, both from now or when they may be filled earliest to the end of the year for 2021 and on an annual basis at the current rates. So for the rest of the year, the budget transfer needed for labor costs would be a total of $134,088. That's divided between the 2 proposed new positions as well as the previously existing staff. And then on an annual basis, again, using the 2021 rates, not figuring in any pay increases, that would be a yearly cost of $214,168. That, of course, does not include, the office expense or the travel expense. And I believe those items are included in a budget transfer request being made going to the Personnel and Finance Committee this week as well.
Thank you, Director Collard. That's helpful. Thank you very much. Next, I will call on Supervisor Zellmer, followed by Supervisor Snyder. Please go ahead, Supervisor Zellmer.
I already had my question answered.
Oh yeah, I apologize.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to talk.
Thank you, Supervisor Zellmer. Next speaker is Supervisor Snyder, followed by Supervisor Rasmussen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And John, thank you for stealing some of my thunder. I just wanted to welcome Ethan back to the town of Winnebago and Sunset Trail. I'm sure that Washington County's loss will be our gain. Ethan, just so you can still handle the town's website, I hope that's still included. So at any rate, welcome aboard. And John, I'm really looking forward to walking the Uwo Fox Cities Campus with you on our tour, safety tour. Looking forward to that a lot. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you, Supervisor Snyder. Next speaker is Supervisor Rasmussen, followed by Supervisor Bender. Please go ahead, Supervisor Rasmussen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just one quick question. Just wondering if Ethan is in the office and already hired, already being paid?
He is.
Without authorization. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Rasmussen. Next speaker is Supervisor Bender. Please go ahead, Supervisor Bender.
This would be for corporate counsel. When you change the table of organization, does that not have to be approved by the county board? In order to add anybody to any office, the table of organization has to be changed. So if he adds one person to the county execs, doesn't the table of organization change, which has to be approved by the county board?
Calling Corporation Counsel, Mary Ann Miller. Corporation Counsel?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you well.
Yes, as I've spoken with the county executive Dable, I explained to him that any person that he would want to hire would have to be approved and confirmed by the county board, but he can actually make the initial choice as to who he may want. But yes, in regard to your question, Supervisor Bender, yes, if there's any kind of table of organization, it does have to be fully vetted with PNF, Personnel and Finance, and the full county board.
That's what I thought. Thank you.
Thank you, Corporation Counsel, and thank you, Supervisor Bender. Next, I'll call on Supervisor Schellinger, followed by Director Cook.
I think Department Head Collar might have a response to that as well.
Oh, please go ahead, Director Collar. Did you have something to add to that?
Yes, I did want to say in response to the question that the Chief of Staff has been hired only as a project level employee, not as a permanent employee. So the current human resources policies, which were voted on and approved by the county board, do allow departments to hire temporary or project employees without them being added yet to the table of organization. So as of the present time, the Chief of Staff has been hired as a project employee for purposes of assisting with the county executive's transition, and only approved at the present time through June 30th, 2021. So of course, that would give sufficient time for the board to consider approving the permanent positions to be added to the TO, at which point we would go through a regular posting and hiring process before adding the position as a regular employee.
Thank you for that clarification, Director Collar. Next, I'll call on Supervisor Schellinger. Please go ahead, Supervisor Schellinger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just have a couple questions that I think have been kind of circulating around the community a little bit, which when it comes back to things, probably also proves the need for a communications role within the county. But just a couple questions, Mr. Executive, how did you go about evaluating the needs of the department and land on these two positions versus versus other positions? Some of the counties, for example, that you listed with many more staff than us have things like judicial system managers or office coordinators as some of the roles. So I just was hoping you could share a little bit about that process, and then I've got just one or two more quick questions.
You want me to start with that? Okay. Yeah, I didn't look at it as the department heads. I looked at it as employees. I looked at it as how our culture was and how our people that work for us to do the services for our constituents and our residents. Because after all, as a county government, we are here to serve the people. That is what we are. We're a service. Even though I have a business background, this is really a service that we're doing. And what we have and the things that I want to be able to work with all of you to look forward is our merit pay system really working? Are we asking our department heads to be both the GM and the head coach? Is that getting in the way of things? Are we causing animosity with some of it? As everybody knows in the public sector, everyone knows what everybody else is making. And we're really causing some drama, some issues that is unnecessary. What we do have to do is we have to set goals with people. I don't want to know what you want to do today. I want to know what you want to do in 10 years, in 20 years. Maybe you're plowing a highway today, but maybe your long-term goal is to eventually be the highway commissioner. So we should be able to help you with that. And when I was looking at a lot of the other counties that is able to establish that goal, I looked at Washington County. And Washington County transitioned from commissioner to executive. Now here we have a guy that went from a salary of almost, I want to say it was a little over $200,000 a year to take a pay cut as a $260,000 a year just to instill the county executive forum in Washington County. And what they've done and how they've done it and how their staff loves them and their employee appreciation. They have $40,000 in their budget for spot bonuses just to say, hey, you did a great job today. Here's a $100 gift card for golfing. Now, that's not a big amount of money, but that goes so far when it comes to appreciating employees and getting them to do all the work that they're supposed to do for you. Now, they don't give the entire $40,000 out as a spot bonus. $30,000 of that is for renting out a tent at the county fair so all county employees can come and have a good time and build it like a community and a family like it should be. We're not in competition of each other. So when I looked at what Washington County did, I thought, why don't I go after this guy so we can learn from a lot of the mistakes that they hit? And we would be so far ahead of that to know what worked and what didn't work and what the things were to not step in. Because I want to do this as efficient as possible. You guys know every time you want to do a study or have a commission come on and do some research, it costs you $20,000 to $40,000. Well, just hire the guy that already spent more than that to figure it out. So that's kind of why I picked Ethan from Washington County, because they just rebuilt their house. And I don't want us to have to pay for the architectural plans, but just do it our way to make sure that we're helping our people the best way we can. Did that answer your questions? And then you have more, right?
Not really at all. I was curious about how how did you consider the land on a chief of staff and a communications specialist versus other types of positions that you could have selected?
Sure.
Other types of roles. I certainly heard early on that the communications specialist was going to be more of a social media manager, and it seems like that has changed a little bit. So what I'm curious about is your individual process about how you landed on these two roles.
Sure. My individual process on these two roles is I think that was all we needed. I mean, you look at some of the bigger counties have 9 staff members. That's way more than we need. We don't need 6 staff members. We have some really great department heads here. We have a lot of really great people here. We have Vicki Fitzgerald is very sharp. She understands finances very well. She has been a great teacher. So as far as some of these other roles, I think we're doing well independently. What we didn't have is we didn't have the executive free enough to lead his department heads to make sure that they were working together. What we don't have is we don't have that voice as far as the communication role. And I really think that communication specialist is something that we're lacking. And then the chief of staff aspect, which isn't technically a chief of staff, Mike Collard is right. It is a temporary project employee right now. It was for my lack of knowledge as far as how government works. I know how to motivate people. I know how to look at issues. I know how to problem solve. I know how to be balanced when I look at an issue and look at things objectively. I know how to weigh both sides of an issue. Do I really know government? No. And can you guys afford me to sit here just flipping switches that I don't know what lights they turn on? No, you can't. So it's a little bit of a collar on myself, I guess, if you would. So I really thought that John Fink was great for as how everything is tied together within this county. Ethan was going to be really good to make sure that I don't burn this place down, because that would be really bad for you and everybody else. And the communication specialist, just because we really need to get that information going back and forth to our communities, to our people, we have to open up that alley. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I mean, I think that gets a little bit more at it. I think, I'm going to agree with Supervisor Shorsey that I think I certainly need to get a little more narrow and clear definition from you about what you want. I keep hearing more and more things that fall into the purvey here of what you see the chief of staff doing. I think we need to get a little bit more specific about what that is and stay, kind of be able to talk about that and have a shared agreement about what that looks like. I've got a few other concerns, but in deference to some of the other questions that have been asked and whatnot tonight, I will hold off. Thank you for your answers.
Thank you, Supervisor Schellinger. Seeing no other county board calls.
Mr. Chairman, my Zoom hand fell off four months ago, and I've had my green button lit up all this time, and you haven't seen it, I guess.
No, that's okay. I was just about to offer to open up the mic for any other county board supervisor. So it's
Okay,
perfect timing,
so if-
Supervisor Powers.
So I guess
Please go ahead.
for you and for Sue, if somebody can fix my Zoom hand, which I lost 4 months ago, that would be helpful. Now, to the county executive, early on when you started speaking, and I just wanted this clarified, I thought I heard you say that 1 month since election day, you want to increase your staff by 5 people and $690,000. Did I write that down wrong?
You wrote that down wrong. That was Rock County. That was what Rock County is currently staffed at in their office.
Okay, so how many people would you like to see your office grown by?
2.
2 more besides you? 3 for a total of 3 in the
Two,
office?
two more besides me and John Fink, so a total of 4 in the office.
All right.
Thank
Well,
you. Thank you, Supervisor Powers. Next, I'll call on Supervisor Eisen. Please go ahead, Supervisor Eisen.
You're muted, Paul.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Domel, for over a decade, I have highlighted how Winnebago County spends 1/2 of what Outagamie County spends running their county board, because they do have an executive organization for their county board. I've never taken a look at the county executive, but I've always wondered how the county executive's office has been able to run without a secretary. And I'm surprised that you haven't added a secretary to your personnel needs. But I very much appreciate your initiative to get support. Your background is a businessman. And I remember when you appealed to the county board to save the old racetrack. And those were happy days. It wasn't a happy day when we didn't save the racetrack, but I appreciate your initiative to get the kind of support to bolster your success over the next 4 years. Congratulations, and I'm looking forward to be working with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Eisen. I'd like to say the one thing that having 4 daughters at home taught me is that it is okay to be wrong and okay to know your weaknesses. I will admit my mistakes, and I'm bound to make a few of them, I guarantee you. And I also know my weaknesses, and I'm going to always try to support myself or reach out to you on the board when there's something that I don't know. The last thing that we can have is somebody in this position that pretends they know all the answers. There's nothing more dangerous than that. For all we know, we could all be wrong. So that's what we need to make sure that we look at, and that's why we have to take caution. And I do appreciate all the questions I've had tonight, especially Mr. Rasmussen, how you wanted to make sure that Ethan was not hired on already as the chief of staff. And that's exactly why I went to Mr. Collard and Mary Ann to make sure that we were doing it correctly as a temporary person, because I definitely want to follow the rules. And that's something I've always done in business. You never have the cheapest accountant and you never have the cheapest lawyer, and you always find a great banker. So I'm going to really try to take that to this role, and I'm not going to pretend that I have all the answers. So thank you for your support.
Thank you, Supervisor Eisen. Now, just to make sure we didn't miss any other county board supervisor, if there's any other county supervisor who has a question but wasn't able to raise their hand, just go ahead and open up their mic. Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the presentation. Thank you very much, Executive Damo, for the information and the presentation. As well, I have to comment, you shared one of my analogies in regards to county government and our role related to general manager and coach. You only missed one in referring to referee. General manager, coach, and referee at different times. but you shared very much a similar analogy. So thank you.
Thank you. Oh, wait, Larry.
Yep.
Yep, Lautenschlager, yep.
Please go ahead. Supervisor Lautenschlager? Did you have one other thing before we move on, Supervisor Lautenschlager?
Hey, Larry.
Stafford was looking to speak. You was trying to get your attention.
Okay, I apologize. I didn't see it. I'll give one opportunity before we move to the next one. Supervisor Stafford, please go ahead and open up your mic if you have a comment or a question.
Thank you very much. Actually, I don't have the ability to raise a hand either, so I don't know exactly how to turn that on.
And that's okay. At the end, I'll always say, is there anyone who wishes to speak? Go ahead and open up the mic. So please go ahead.
Perfect. And being as new as I am, my biggest question is, I as well have a lot of questions on the details surrounding this and how we're going to get there. Is it a fair question to ask right now, what is the process in which the board will be following over the next 30 or so days in order to come to some resolution and have the opportunity to rinse through the details that need to be rinsed through?
Certainly, I can answer that question, frankly. So it'll follow a similar process with other positions. So it'll go to the Personnel and Finance Committee, who would review it and make a recommendation to the board. They actually have a meeting with an agenda. I believe it's this Thursday already. And then any recommendation from the Personnel and Finance Committee would come before the county board before any final approval. So good question.
Great, thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Supervisor Stafford. Now, is there any other supervisor who had a question or comment that wasn't able to raise their Zoom hand or open up the mic? If so, just go ahead and open up your mic and speak. Okay. Seeing none, we'll close that presentation. Once again, thank you very much, Executive Damel, for that information presentation. Greatly appreciate it.
Thank you.
So we'll move to our final presentation this evening. That's an update on the Whitman Regional Airport Terminal Project. For that, I'll call on our Airport Director, Jim Schell. Director Schell, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chairman Ramos. Members of the board, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you well.
And I will try to attempt to share my screen here. Just one caveat, we do have a 14-month-old son that's running around the house, which my wife's trying to keep quiet. So if you hear banging on the office door, you'll know what that is.
It's understandable. Those are the times we're in.
So with that, I will go ahead and attempt to share my screen. Let me know if you can see it.
We can see your screen.
All right, great. So appreciate the opportunity to come back before the board and give you another update on our terminal project, which is still ongoing. I'll start off by saying we've made a lot of progress since last we met. The last time I updated the board was in January, and we've had about 4 months of progress since then. So my first few slides, I'll attempt to show you kind of what's changed since January. So you can kind of see them here in the pictures. So is everybody able to see that first slide then?
Yes, we are able to see it.
Okay. See a purple building?
Yes.
Okay. So January 19th, this is kind of where we left off at the last county board update. We had essentially the structure up, the roof over the lobby up, and attempting or working our way towards enclosing the building so it could be temporarily heated while we worked on some of the interior. So this was approximately a week to 10 days before they actually got it temporarily enclosed and heated. Since then, I'll just shift to the next one. This is what it looks like today. So quite a lot of work has been done since that date. Obviously a lot of exterior work, but then of course a lot of interior work that I'll touch on here in a minute. But this is kind of the airside view as you arrive by aircraft of the terminal facility from the south looking kind of to the north. And as you can see, all of the masonry is now complete on the building. In fact, they're just finishing that up this week on the front side or the north side. And so all of the brickwork is complete. All of the stonework on the columns and the front facade, which I'll show in a minute, is complete. All of the glass installation without all the windows are done now. And then the curved metal roof that goes over both the lobby and the north and south canopies has been in place now for some time. However, I just wanted to kind of show the contrast between what it looked like in January and what it looks like today. So this next one is just a little bit closer view of the airside entrance to the building. As you can see, we still have gravel between the building and the aircraft parking apron. We're set to pour that concrete, looks like next week. So we'll have that tie-in piece ready to go and poured sometime hopefully early next week. And then once that's done, there's really very few things on the airside that need to be completed. We do need to put in lighting, which you can see one of the lighting posts on the corner of the building has begun installation there. And then some fence work to tie it into the existing perimeter fence. But that's kind of a closer up view of kind of the southern facade of the building. Now shifting back out to the parking lot. So the north side looking more or less south. This is the view that we last saw in January. So again, same date as the previous January photo, just from the north side, from the parking lot perspective, and then kind of shifting ahead to actually April 27th is when this photo was taken. You can see kind of night and day difference on what a building looks like once you put brick and stone on it and decide not to leave it purple. So we've got quite a bit of work that's been done obviously on this side as well, but we've got obviously a fair amount of work to do outside of the building. As you can see, we're still in an aggregate lot on the north side. That asphalt is scheduled to be poured first week in June. We still have the utility installation to complete from 20th Avenue to the new facility for electric and gas service put in by WPS, which is coming here in the next week or so. I'll get a little bit closer in. So this is again the north side on the 20th Avenue entrance from the parking lot. You can see the canopy over the drive lane that'll be installed here first part of June. And then you can see the stonework a little bit closer and the window installation that's now been done. And as you can see, this was taken last week. On the right-hand side of the entrance, the stonework is still continuing, but it's actually wrapping up now with some of the columns that are being finished. So now transitioning into the inside of the building, because I don't think in January we had a whole lot of progress to show on the inside, as it was just a shell of a building at that point. So if you stepped in the front entrance off of 20th Avenue, off the parking lot side, this would be the view you'd have going north through the building. Took it on a little bit of a cloudy day, so you can see it's a little bit darker in there. But even on a cloudy day, we get a lot of natural light in the building. Of course, there's no lights on in this picture, so that's just all natural light. My next photo will kind of illustrate that a little bit, but this would be looking north through the lobby out to the air side, which is obviously washed out because of the sun there. But then this would be in the lobby facing east as of the end of last week. Just meant to show the natural light that's coming in through the upper windows, the clerestory windows, that really help us create an efficient building space. As you can see, there's a fan on the ceiling there to help circulate the air within the lobby to make sure it's an even constant temperature in the lobby space. But really just a kind of almost still a blank canvas on some portions of that wall right now. Between the columns that you see, the solid wall on kind of the left-hand side of the picture, we're working with EAA right now on partnering for historical display of the airport's history, EAA and AirVenture history, and the namesake of the airport, which of course is Steve Whitman. So we're working on laying all that out right now. We've been working on that for several months, and so that is a piece of the building that's really going to be a showcase once it's installed. And right now they're working on some of the casework installations, but waiting till lobby floor grinding and polishing is complete to do anything else out in the lobby. This would be in the lobby facing more or less west. So you can see the fireplace that's been installed. This area would be kind of the main lobby seating. There'll be furnishings around the lobby, or excuse me, the fireplace is kind of the centerpiece. And then if you go back behind the fireplace, then you have a small closet and actually a mother's room in there as well. That's required now by code. And so that's the kind of the opposite view of the lobby taken from that same perspective. And then this would be a view of the lobby looking towards what will soon be the Basler Flight Service counter. There'll be actually a curved counter. don't know if I think I've got a couple renderings at the end so you can kind of see what that looks like, but they are still on our website. There'll be a curved counter that spans the wall on the opening of the door opening on the right to about where that gentleman is kneeling there, working on some wiring. So it'll be a curved counter with Basler Flight Service sign that they'll be installing here within the next week or so once the paint there is complete. And so that's kind of the view as you're standing a few paces back from the Basler Flight Service counter looking through out to the airfield from that angle. So kind of just looking in a little bit different direction from that spot is the view into our new airport administration offices. The glass half wall and the door had just been installed a few days earlier, so it's a little streaky there in the picture, but you can see obviously the view into our administration office. And then if you step inside that door, just on the other end of the reception area, this is airport administration's reception area. Our administrative assistant would sit in this area with the desk kind of in the middle and some seating on the far wall and the wall to your right. With the view out to the airfield. This will be a photo that's taken today. So after you come in off of the parking lot side of the building, the 20th Avenue entrance, directly to your left are a couple of meeting rooms. And that can actually be one room or multiple rooms subdivided by a sliding wall that you can kind of see the track of on the far wall. But what we did with this is we worked with our facilities committee, who's been involved in every progress meeting since the project's inception, on identifying, since we are so far under budget, there are a number of things that would be in a perfect world be good to install in these meeting rooms. And one of those is a hearing loop. So that's actually being put down right now. In fact, this was from today and tested in order to, of course, fit underneath the carpeting and allow those with that type of hearing aid to be able to have, the enhancement there. And so the hearing loop's going in. This is the meeting rooms kind of looking back towards the lobbies. You can see kind of the fireplace through one of those doors. And last but not least, no presentation would ever be complete without a view of the bathroom. So this one needs no real explanation. Happens to be the men's room. It did not go in the women's room today, so that's the best I've got. But you can see the tile work that's been done. I really do like the floor tile. I think that was a good choice. The wall tile, and then the fixtures that are just being installed as of today. So that kind of gets you more or less up to date without physically going in the building. But I do highly suggest if you'd like to come out and see the facility that you let us know. We kind of take small groups through for tours, and just get a hold of me. My contact information is at the end again. So as we look at the whole project, we're on a slide of the site plan for the new facility, which includes, I don't know if you can see my cursor or not, but it includes the vehicle access road that loops in and out of the new building underneath the canopy that goes over the access drive. The new parking lot, which is approximately, I think, 78 spaces in the new parking. Then, of course, where it says new building, that's the footprint of the new terminal facility. And then the cross-hatched and kind of the diagonal slanted lines on the very bottom of the page is the tie-in that you saw that connects what was removed to the existing aircraft parking apron on the airside. So right now, we've got a lot of work still to do on the exterior of the building with the apron tie-in, and then also the parking lot. Of course, like I mentioned before, the asphalt for the parking lot is scheduled to start first week of June. So that's coming right towards the end and kind of in the same time frame as the landscaping will be installed. There's just a couple of renderings for kind of refreshment of what the facility is intended to look like. I think it's coming quite a long way towards this vision here. And so those are the air side, excuse me, the land side on the upper left and the air side on the right. So real basic, kind of high level pieces about the terminal project. Originally we did estimate this project, which includes demolition of the existing terminal facilities at approximately $7 million. We are on track right now with the bids that we received. and also the remaining project costs that are outside of the general contractor scope to complete the project for 5.5. I say that, but it probably will be less than $5.5 million by the time we're all said and done. So I think that's a huge win for the county as far as a savings to the taxpayer getting this project done well under budget. It is a combination of state grant assistance, which is approximately $2 million, with the remaining balance funded by the county's funding. And then again, the the GA terminal facility, 12,500 square feet to kind of replace the almost 40,000 square feet of space that we had with the two previous facilities. And we are on track for a June completion. Our contract end date with Cardinal Construction, who's the general contractor, is June 13th. We are on track to meet that deadline. And really looking for substantial completion and the issuance of an occupancy certificate in mid-June. Then looking towards late June / early July for a grand opening ribbon cutting event that we're looking at just tentatively at this moment in time. We haven't selected a date. We're looking at giving enough time for everything to get moved over to the new building. And there's always going to be some variables associated with that. So looking towards, like I said, late June, early July. There's my contact information, like I mentioned. Well, happy to answer any questions anybody has. There's my contact information should you like to come out and see the progress. It's definitely exciting to see it in person versus photos, but hopefully give you a snapshot of where we are as of today.
Thank you, Director Snell, for that presentation and information. We'll go ahead and open it up for questions and comments. First, I'll call on Supervisor Zellmer. Please go ahead, Supervisor Zellmer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jim, great presentation. I'd like to know how much the demolition costs were for the existing terminal. How much should we pay?
So the demolition costs are actually lumped together between the West Wing facility that was already demolished and the main terminal. It's all one cost. So between the two, I want to say it's roughly $250,000, somewhere in that ballpark for demolition. Between all of the civil work, which is demolition of the old building, and the site work that surrounds the new building, is approximately $1 million. So a chunk of that is just demolition. And I believe, I don't have that number right in front of me, but I believe it's about $250,000 in demolition.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Zellmer. Next speaker, Supervisor Eisen. Please go ahead, Supervisor Eisen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director, could you give us an update on how the completion of our new terminal will coordinate with the plans for EAA? Do they still plan on having an international event? And how will we receive them in our new facility? And will the old facility be demolished, or could it be used?
Great question. The completion date has us done with the building June 13th. Like I mentioned before, there's a process to move everything from the old building over to the new building, which we anticipate to have done by the end of June for sure. And so that really flows very nicely into the timeline for AirVenture 2021. That leaves us plus or minus a month prior to the convention to be over and settled in the new building. As far as the convention goes, yes, it is scheduled July 26th through August 1st. You know, on plan to have a very nice event. And as far as the international presence goes, that really is up to each individual country of what their travel restrictions are to the US at that point in time. Right now, I think there's a lot of difficulty to say we'll have a whole lot of international presence this year, just because a lot of European countries and Australia, which is a major contingent that does come to the event every year, are still pretty restrictive, I think, on travel to the US. So, you know, that is something that's continually being looked at by EAA on the international perspective. I know the head of EAA just mentioned that in an interview earlier this week, or was it last week, where they were still pretty doubtful on the abilities for some of the international traffic. But we are, you know, at the ready to accommodate folks from wherever they may come.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Supervisor Eisen. Next speaker, Supervisor Lautenschlager. Please go ahead, Supervisor Lautenschlager.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jim, it's a wonderful building. I mean, you did a wonderful job somewhat supervising the building, and we knew that we needed a new building because the old building was, number one, just outdated. I mean, the utilities was just out extraordinary. We were paying too much money for it. But the big thing is, and it kind of goes on Supervisor County Exec Damo's thing on communication. I know you sent, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I know you sent out an email to the board today, to the committee today for the aviation committee, and you kind of keep us up to date on operations, month by month or whatever, and year by year. I mean, do you have those numbers? I have them here, but I think that's something that the board needs to know is why, and the community actually needs to know why this airport is so important to Winnebago County.
Absolutely. Yeah, I appreciate that. And one of the things I'll point out to your point on the operations numbers is that since January 1st of this year, I've been sending our committee kind of updates on where our operational traffic, our takeoffs and landings at the airport has gone in comparison to prior years, also in comparison to last year with the reductions due to COVID. We've had month over month increases, January, February, March, and April now. Pretty significant ones in our operation numbers, not just from 2020, but also from 2019. And so we're really seeing our traffic coming back very strongly. There's a number of different factors that are related to that and what are driving those numbers. But yes, it is a very busy airport by takeoffs and landings and by the type of traffic that we facilitate. And our growth this year coming back from COVID is really pretty astounding. Typically speaking, we have on average 3,000 operations, which is either a takeoff or a landing in the month of April. Historically, this past April just ended here a few days ago, we had 5,000. And so that's comparing it to a normal average year, not a COVID year. Last year was quite down the first few months, especially the pandemic. So we're really on the upswing as far as that goes. Appreciate you pointing that out, Larry. And it's something that, I continually want to make sure everyone on the county board is up to speed as possible.
Yeah, I mean, because we always hear from a lot of county members or whatever, saying, why do we have, there's nothing going on at the airport. Well, besides EAA. Well, no, there is. I mean, there's a lot of things day by day. The airport's just not there just for one event per year, for EAA. I mean, it gets used quite a bit every day, and I think people need to know that. Thanks, Jim.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Jim, and this is Morris Cox. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Jim, I have a question that has to do with the number of slots you have for automobiles in your parking area. Has anybody raised the question about long-term parking and what you do with people that are overnight for or a week in the parking lot, and you obviously don't have enough parking for it?
Great question. A great question. Thank you for that. Well, typically speaking, we don't have a whole lot of long-term parking at the airport. There are some folks that, are frequent users of the airport that may have their car there for, a week or two at a time, but those are pretty low numbers as far as who's using the parking lot for more than, let's say just a couple of days. And so that's just the parking that is to the north of the new facility. There's actually a separate parking lot just west of that. That's to remain. That services those type of visitors anyhow, as far as transient folks or based folks that are, spending a fair amount of time with their vehicle at the airport. So there is a lot that's more or less designated for more of the longer term parking to the west of the new lot.
Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Cox. Next speaker is Supervisor Bender. Please go ahead, Supervisor Bender.
I'd just like to congratulate you on doing a good job on overseeing the building. And just out of curiosity, have we been getting any interest on that business park? I know it's been sitting there for about 3 or 4 years, and I know you lost your assistant director, but just wondering if anything happening there. I mean, have we been getting some interest on that with all this Oshkosh truck stuff going on with the mail trucks, and perhaps maybe they might be interested in building something out there. Just curious if anything's going on.
Absolutely, I'm happy to address that. We've had a number of meetings in the last few months with Go EDC staff on restarting our marketing business development efforts on the park. Of course, 2020 was kind of a pause for the most part on all those efforts with COVID. But that being said, we're looking at our best options and best way to use our resources to market the business park as well. I did meet with our new county executive, I believe it was last week. And that was a big focus of our discussion, as well as the business park and how we continue to promote that and look for the proper tenant to kind of be the anchor tenant in that park. So there's a number of things kind of going on behind the scenes with that. We've got a pretty aggressive plan this year as far as convention attendance to try to create more of those one-on-one relationships and building some more prospects for the park, which we didn't end up getting the opportunity to do any of in 2020. And I also will mention, because you brought it up, and so I want to announce to the board, we did hire a new deputy director, excuse me, to fill the vacant position that Mr. Sweet left in January. So we hired a new deputy director. I'm officially announcing it to our aviation committee tomorrow at our meeting, but his name is Cameron Halleck. He's a very sharp gentleman out of Texas at the moment. So happy to have him come on board here May 17th, and I think he can contribute a lot of things to help us achieve our mission in a number of areas, including the business park.
Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Bender. I want to give an opportunity from any other county board members who maybe weren't able to raise their Zoom hand to just go ahead and open up their mic and ask any question or comment.
This is Supervisor Powers. Jim,
Please
it was
go
a very
ahead.
good. It was a very good presentation. I thought the interior was just lovely. I like the fireplace. I'm wondering, I have a question. Those supervisors who've been around a long time know that I have an obsession with mother's rooms in our county buildings. Is there a sink in the mother's room?
There is, yes.
Okay,
Correct,
that's
correct.
important. And then I was just wondering, you're not going to change it, I know, but you chose to have that nice swoopy design on the roof and the swoopy design on the windows and the swoopy awning in the back. I mean, at the the plane side. Sorry, I just got muted. On the parking lot side, it's just a plain awning. How come there's no swoopy on the parking lots on that awning there?
Well, there is over the lobby space as a whole, and then the canopy that goes over the drive lane. I think continuing that curvature out over the canopy was just a structural decision that was made between us and our architect of saying that, that not to mention drainage for water and everything for anything that's underneath the canopy. It's something that it still follows a curvature, however, it doesn't follow the same curvature. There's probably a number of different factors that went into that decision, but ultimately, that's something that was decided in the design phase in order to provide that canopy over the drive lane and make it structurally sound.
Okay, well, I'm not suggesting that you change it because that would be silly for that, but since only air people are going to see the swoopy canopy at the back, then everybody who's coming in and driving by, we miss out on the swoopy part. Anyway, I just thought it would have been cool, but don't change. You can't change it. I just was wondering why you chose to do it that way. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Powers. Any other county board supervisor with any comment or question, go ahead and open up your mic if you have any question or comment. Okay, seeing none, just so you know, for future reference, I'm not sure if all supervisors know this or if you even have this button, but on the bottom of your screen in the middle, there are 5 icons and there is one kind of in the middle, but on the right-hand side of the middle that says reactions. If you click that, there should be an opportunity to raise your hand. I realize many of you already know that, but just in case someone didn't, I just wanted to point that out for future reference.
What I see is a way to clap or give a thumbs up, but I don't see a raising, there's no raising hand. There's a clapping hand and a thumbs up.
Thanks for that input. For some reason, that unfortunately yours doesn't have it. So thanks for that input.
I also have a heart and I can cry and I can say, wow, and I have some confetti, but I don't have a hand to raise.
Yeah, okay, very, very well. Thank you for letting us know. You have pretty much all the other icons, but for one reason or another, you don't have the raise hand. So thanks for that feedback.
Shiloh from Morris?
Yes, Supervisor Cox?
Yeah, I've been going no-handed all night. I can't get into the conversation.
Very good. Do you have any other questions or comments?
I've looked, no, not now, but I have looked all over and on the participant board that goes up on the right side, they don't have one out there either. So I don't know what's going on here.
Okay, thank you for the input, Supervisor Cox.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, please go ahead, Supervisor Fari, and then I see two other call-ins. Please go ahead, Supervisor Fari.
Thank you. I have the same difficulty. I don't have the hand option either. So I assume we're all viewing the same Zoom county service. So the question is, why do some have that option and others don't? Maybe somebody
Yes.
can answer that.
So I don't think we have an answer right now, but we'll ask IT to see if they have an answer between now and the next meeting as to why some of you may not be having that.
That'd be great. Thank you.
There may be a reason that we can't change, but at least if we know the reason, or if we can find, we can change it. So we'll see if they can sort that out. Thank you, Supervisor Fari.
I guess I have one more question, Mr. Chairman, and that is on the calendar, at least this morning, there was still a schedule on the 17th for a county tour. Is that off or on?
No, so the county board tour is not on for the 17th. I made a comment previously, but I should have reminded everyone today that we do not have a county board meeting tour on the 17th, the Monday, like we normally would. But I'm looking to hopefully plan to have one sometime in late July timeframe that we can hopefully work out. So I'm basically hoping that we can do it this year, but I'm delaying it intentionally a few months so that hopefully we can still do it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Powers. Any other call-ins from any other county supervisor before we finish up this evening? Supervisor Brunn, did you have a comment or question?
Yes, it's regarding the Zoom hands. When I use the iPad from the county, I have a Zoom hand. When I'm on my home computer, which I am tonight, I don't have a Zoom hand. So I think it has maybe something with the actual computer device that we use.
That's very helpful because we'll share that with IT to see if that's the explanation and whether or not there's anything we can change because of it. So thank you, Supervisor Brunn.
Okay, I've always used a home laptop, and I used to have a Zoom hand until 4 months ago. It just fell off.
Yeah. Thank you, Supervisor Power. Okay, seeing no other call-ins, we'll go ahead and conclude that presentation. Thank you very much, Director Shell, for all that information, all your efforts. Certainly looks like the project is definitely coming to conclusion and looking very good. So we look forward to that ribbon cutting in the near future. So thank you again, Director Shell, for all your efforts.
Thank you.
So that concludes our presentations and concludes our agenda for this evening. So I will call on Supervisor Albrecht for a motion to adjourn to May 18th. Supervisor Albrecht?
I move to adjourn till May 18th.
There's a motion to adjourn to May 18th. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to adjourn till May 18th. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. That motion carries. So we are adjourned, everyone. Thank you very much and look forward to seeing you all on May 18th. Have a wonderful rest of the evening. Bye now.